September 8th, 1943, 6:30 p.m. Wolfschanze, the Wolf's Lair, East Prussia. The rain is steady, drumming against the pine needles and concrete roofs, turning the forest floor into black mud. Inside the bunker, the air smells of damp wool, cigarette smoke, and cold metal. A map table glows under harsh lamps, Italy spread flat like a patient on an operating table, red and blue grease pencil lines cutting through mountains and coastlines. Adolf Hitler stands rigid, hands clenched behind his back. No one speaks. A radio crackles in the corner, its static snapping like electricity across the room. Then a voice breaks through, Italian-accented German, halting, strained. The announcement is brief, formal, unmistakable. Italy has signed an armistice with the Allies. For a second, the room does not react. It's as if the words hang in the air, waiting for permission to exist. You can almost feel the temperature drop. Somewhere deep in the bunker, machinery hums, indifferent to history turning. Hitler does not move. His head tilts slightly, like an animal that has heard a sound it does not understand or does not want to. Then his face changes. Not shocked, not disbelief. Recognition. The kind that lands like a blade sliding between the ribs. The Italian betrayal, long feared, endlessly suspected, has finally happened. This was his oldest ally, the first to march beside him, the man who had stood shoulder to shoulder in Venice and Munich, who had been there before the world burned, Benito Mussolini, Il Duce. And now Italy is gone. Hitler steps forward, slowly. The leather of his boots creaks against the concrete floor. He reaches the table and places one hand on the map, fingers pressing down over the Italian peninsula, as if he could physically hold it in place. No one dares to speak. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel stares at the floor. Alfred Jodel's jaw tightens. Martin Bormann watches Hitler's reflection in the polished surface of the map table, reading the micro-movements of his face like a code he has spent years learning. Hitler exhales through his nose. Italy, he says quietly. Not a shout, not yet. Just a word. Then another breath, deeper this time. They have stabbed us in the back. The sentence lands with terrifying calm. Outside, thunder rolls across the East Prussian forest. Inside, the Führer begins to talk. At first, it's measured, controlled, almost analytical. He speaks of timelines, of missed warnings, of generals who never understood the Italian soul. He paces now, short, sharp steps, hands chopping the air as he dissects the betrayal, piece by piece.
But beneath the words, something darker is rising. You can hear it in the pauses, in the way his voice tightens when he says Mussolini's name. This was not just a military setback. This was personal. For over 2 decades, Hitler had seen Mussolini as proof that history was on his side. Fascism did not stand alone in Germany. It had a twin in Italy. Rome and Berlin, Caesar and Germania, the rebirth of empire. Now Rome had turned. And Hitler feels it the way a man feels a bone snap inside his body, sudden, irreversible, screaming even in silence. He stops pacing. Turns to Keitel. How long have they been negotiating? Keitel swallows. Mein Führer, intelligence suggests months. Months. The word detonates. Hitler's face flushes red. His voice rises, sharp and venomous. Months, he spits, while German soldiers bleed for them, while we send divisions to hold their fronts, while we prop up their collapsing armies, this is what they were doing? He slams his fist onto the map. Pens jump, papers flutter to the floor. They were never allies, he snarls. They were parasites. The bunker is silent again, but now it's a fearful silence, the kind that makes men hold their breath without realizing it. Hitler straightens, smoothing the front of his tunic with trembling hands. The rage is there, but beneath it, something colder is forming. Calculation. Italy's betrayal is not just a wound, it is a threat. Allied forces will pour into the peninsula. German supply lines in the Mediterranean are exposed. The Balkans tremble. Even the Reich's southern flank now feels naked. And Mussolini? Hitler knows, even before anyone says it, that Il Duce has been arrested, deposed by his own people, dragged from power by the very system he helped create. A man who had once been paraded as the iron will of Italy now sits in a cell, powerless. The irony is not lost on Hitler. For a moment, just a moment, there is something like pity on his face. Then it vanishes. "They will pay for this," Hitler says, voice low, controlled, deadly. "Every one of them." He turns toward Jodl.
Prepare the orders. Operation Axe, the plan to disarm the Italian military and seize control of the country, had existed on paper for months. Now it would be unleashed without restraint. German units already stationed in Italy would move tonight. Bridges, airfields, ports. No hesitation, no mercy. Italian soldiers, yesterday's comrades, would be treated as enemies by dawn. As aides rush from the room, Hitler remains behind, staring once more at the map. His finger traces a slow line from Rome northward, toward Germany. This was not how it was supposed to happen. In his mind, Italy was never meant to fall first. It was supposed to stand as a pillar, a partner, a shield. Together they would face the Anglo-Americans. Together they would reshape Europe. Instead, Italy had cracked, and cracks spread. Hitler's voice drops, almost to a whisper, more to himself than to anyone else. "I warned him," he says. "I warned him what weakness would bring." Outside the bunker, the rain intensifies. Far away, in Rome, church bells are ringing. Italians flood the streets, celebrating what they believe is the end of the war for them. Allied broadcasts echo through cafes and apartments. Hope, dangerous, intoxicating hope, fills the night air. But here, in the depths of the wolf's lair, hope has just died. Because Hitler is no longer thinking about Italy as an ally. He is thinking about it as territory. And he is thinking about Mussolini not as a brother in ideology, but as a fallen asset. An asset he may still be able to use. Hitler turns sharply. "Find him," he orders. "Wherever they are holding Mussolini, find him." The men in the room exchange quick glances. They understand what this means. Italy has betrayed Germany, but the story is not over. Not yet. Because as Hitler stands there, fury cooling into resolve, another idea is forming, one that will drag Mussolini back into the war, whether he wants it or not. And when that idea takes shape, Europe will feel the consequences.
September 9th, 1943. Dawn. Rome. The city wakes under a pale, uncertain light. From the outside, it looks like peace. Civilians gather in small knots on street corners. Newspapers change hands. Someone laughs too loudly. Somewhere, a radio plays music that hasn't been heard openly in years. The war, many believe, is finally over. But behind the locked doors of government buildings, behind drawn curtains and guarded corridors, Italy is bracing for something else entirely. Benito Mussolini is no longer in Rome. 24 hours earlier, he had been Il Duce, the man whose jaw-out portraits stared down from walls across the nation. Now he is prisoner number one, shuffled between secret locations by men who once saluted him. He sits alone in a small room, stripped of insignia, his black uniform replaced with a plain jacket. His posture is still rigid, but the stiffness no longer reads as strength, it reads as a shock. Mussolini stares at the wall. He has not slept. The betrayal, his betrayal, as Hitler would frame it, was not his doing. The Grand Council turned on him. The king signed his arrest. The country he shaped discarded him like a liability. And now, somewhere far to the north, Adolf Hitler knows. That knowledge alone is enough to tighten Mussolini's chest. He remembers Hitler's eyes, sharp, searching, always calculating. A man who did not forgive weakness, a man who did not forget humiliation. Mussolini understands something the celebrating crowds outside do not. Italy may have left the war, but Germany has not left Italy. Wolfschanze, East Prussia. Hitler has not slept either. He stands at a long table strewn with aerial photographs, grainy black and white images of mountain passes, coastal roads, isolated villas. Every potential hiding place is marked with pins. SS officers wait silently as he studies the images, his finger hovering, then stopping. The Gran Sasso, he says, a remote mountain resort in the Apennines, nearly inaccessible, high altitude, only one road, a cable car. Perfect.
Intelligence suggests Mussolini has been moved there, guarded by Italian carabinieri loyal to the king, not to Germany. Hitler's lips curl into something almost like a smile. They think height will protect them, he mutters. They forget who controls the skies. He straightens and looks up. Bring me Skorzeny. The name lands heavily in the room. SS Hauptsturmführer Otto Skorzeny, tall, scar-faced, reckless, a man who thrives on impossible missions and lives for the Führer's attention. He is not subtle, he is not cautious, but he is bold, and this moment demands boldness. Later that day, an airfield in Germany. Skorzeny listens as the mission is outlined. He does not interrupt, does not ask questions. His eyes flick briefly to the photograph of Mussolini, older now, heavier, his expression hollowed by defeat. Alive, Hitler had said. He must be taken alive. When the briefing ends, Skorzeny nods once. We will bring him back, mein Führer. Hitler studies him. You will not fail. It is not a warning. It is a statement. Gran Sasso d'Italia, September 12th, 1943. The mountain air is thin and biting. Clouds cling to the rocky peaks, moving slowly, as if unsure whether to reveal what is about to happen. Italian guards stand outside the hotel, rifles slung, boots stamping against the cold. They are tense, but bored. No one comes up here without permission. No one leaves. Then the sound reaches them, a distant hum, growing louder. They look up. You can almost feel the confusion ripple through them as gliders emerge from the clouds, silent, unnatural shapes descending far too fast. There is no time to react. The first glider slams into the rocky ground, skidding violently. Doors burst open, German soldiers pour out, weapons raised, boots crunching against stone. Otto Skorzeny is among them, shouting orders, moving with ferocious speed. Down, don't shoot, he roars, in Italian. The guards freeze. Some drop their weapons, others hesitate just long enough. The entire operation takes minutes, no shots fired. Inside the hotel, Mussolini hears boots pounding up the stairs. The door bursts open. Skorzeny steps inside. Duce, he says, snapping to attention. The Führer sends his greetings. For the first time since his arrest, Mussolini's eyes widen. Relief floods his face, followed immediately by dread. Because rescue does not mean freedom, it means obligation. Hours later, Mussolini is flown out in a tiny reconnaissance plane, overloaded, dangerously unstable. The pilot hesitates, but Skorzeny forces his way aboard, adding even more weight. The plane hurtles down the mountainside, barely lifting off before the cliff edge drops away beneath them. For a breathless moment, it seems impossible. Then they are airborne. Italy shrinks below, and with it, Mussolini's last chance to disappear quietly into history. Wolfschanze. Hitler receives the news in the early evening. Mussolini is secure, an aide says. He is on his way. Hitler closes his eyes, not in relief, in satisfaction. Good, he replies. Then, after a pause, now we will show Italy what betrayal costs. He turns back to the map. German divisions are already moving south. Italian units are being surrounded, disarmed, and executed if they resist. Former allies hunted through mountain passes and city streets. And Mussolini? Hitler does not see him as a friend restored. He sees him as a symbol, a tool, a puppet to be placed back on stage, not to lead, but to legitimize German control. A new Italy will be born in the north, and it will bleed.
As night falls over the Wolf's Lair, Hitler begins dictating the terms of Mussolini's return, not as a ruler, but as the head of a hollow state propped up by German guns. Outside, the war rages on. Inside, the Führer is already planning how to turn betrayal into dominance. And Mussolini, speeding toward Germany under armed guard, has not yet realized the full price of his rescue. Because the next time he stands before Hitler, he will understand exactly what Hitler said about loyalty and what he demands in return. September 14, 1943, Rostenburg Airfield, East Prussia. The engines wind down with a metallic whine. Cold air rushes into the cabin as the door opens, carrying the smell of wet tarmac and pine sap. Mussolini steps onto the runway slowly, blinking against the light. He looks smaller than the man who once filled balconies with his presence. His shoulders sag beneath the weight of what he already knows is coming. At the far end of the airfield, Adolf Hitler waits. No crowd, no ceremony, just two men and the wreckage of an alliance. Hitler approaches first. His steps are brisk, controlled. He stops a few feet from Mussolini and studies him in silence, taking in the pale face, the stiff movements, the absence of confidence. For a moment, neither speaks. You can almost hear the wind cutting between them. Then Hitler breaks the silence. "I told you," he says quietly, in German. "I told you this would happen." Mussolini straightens instinctively, as if the words have snapped a wire inside him. "They betrayed me," Mussolini replies, his voice hoarse. "The king, the council, I never intended." Hitler raises a hand. Intention is irrelevant. The word lands like a verdict. Hitler steps closer now, invading Mussolini's space. His voice remains low, but it is sharper than any shout. "You allowed weakness to grow, and weakness invites betrayal." Mussolini opens his mouth to respond, then closes it. He knows this tone. There is no argument here. There is only judgment. Hitler turns away. "Come," he says, "we have much to discuss." Inside the Wolf's Lair, the bunker feels tighter than before, lower, heavier. Maps cover the walls. Red pins dominate Italy now, marking German positions. Mussolini's eyes track them as he walks, understanding with each step how thoroughly his country has been occupied. Hitler gestures for him to sit. Mussolini does not. "I will stand," he says. Hitler studies him for a moment, then shrugs. "As you wish." The door closes. Guards remain outside. This conversation will not be overheard. Hitler begins without preamble. "Italy has collapsed," he says. "Your army surrendered without honor. Your government crawled to the enemy." Mussolini flinches, but Hitler continues, relentless. "The Allies will land in force. They will take Rome. They will parade through your streets as liberators, unless—" He stops. Mussolini looks up. "Unless what?" he asks. Hitler's eyes lock onto his. "Unless you return." The words hang in the air. Mussolini exhales slowly. "Return as what?" Hitler walks to the map and taps northern Italy with a finger. "A new state, a fascist state, loyal, corrected." Mussolini understands immediately. Not Rome, not the Kingdom of Italy. A remnant, a shell. The Italian Social Republic. A government in name only, protected and controlled by German forces. "You will lead it," Hitler says. "You will speak. You will sign. You will inspire those still loyal." Mussolini's voice drops.
And if I refuse? Hitler turns. The silence stretches. Then calmly, you have already seen what happens when you are not in power. The implication is unmistakable. Without Germany, Mussolini is nothing, a prisoner, a footnote, a man discarded by his own nation. With Germany, he may still stand, if only as a shadow of himself. Mussolini nods once. I will do what is necessary. Hitler smiles. It is not warm. Late September 1943, northern Italy. The Italian Social Republic is announced to the world. Propaganda posters appear overnight, Mussolini's face once more staring down from walls, though now the eyes seem hollow, the jaw forced. Radios blare speeches written by German advisors, delivered in Mussolini's unmistakable cadence. But the crowds are smaller, the cheers muted. Italian partisans melt into the countryside. Sabotage begins almost immediately. Trains derail. German patrols are ambushed. The war has changed its shape. Mussolini watches from guarded villas as reports pile up, executions, reprisals, villages burned in response to resistance. This is the Italy he now presides over, an Italy at war with itself. Wolfschanz. Hitler receives daily updates. Italy is no longer an ally to be trusted. It is a territory to be controlled. In private meetings, Hitler's language has hardened. He speaks of Italians with open contempt, cowards, traitors, unreliable. Officers take notes. Orders reflect the shift. German troops are instructed to act decisively, ruthlessly. The lesson must be clear. Betrayal is paid in blood. Yet even as he tightens his grip on Italy, Hitler cannot escape the deeper implication of what has happened. If Italy could fall, who else might break? Hungary, Romania. Even within Germany's own ranks, doubt flickers. The betrayal has planted a seed, and Hitler feels it. His speeches grow more furious. His demands are more absolute. Loyalty is no longer assumed, it is enforced.
December 1943. A private dinner at the Wolf's Lair. Hitler sits with a small circle of confidants. The mood is tense. The Eastern Front bleeds men daily. Allied bombers darken German skies. Someone mentions Italy. Hitler sets his fork down slowly. When I learned of their betrayal, he says, I understood something very clearly. The men lean in. You cannot build a future with weak partners, Hitler continues, only with those who fear the consequences of disobedience. No one responds. They do not need to. Outside, snow begins to fall over the forest. Inside, Hitler's world is narrowing, shrinking into a fortress of suspicion, control, and vengeance. Italy's betrayal has not softened him, it has sharpened him. And as the war grinds on, that sharpness will cut not just his enemies, but everyone who is still trapped within his grasp. January 22nd, 1944, 2 a.m., Anzio, Italy. The night explodes without warning. Naval guns thunder from the darkness offshore, their flashes briefly turning the sea white. Landing craft grind against the beach. Men pour out into the surf, weapons held high, boots filling with icy water. The Allies are back, behind German lines. Anzio, the very scenario Hitler had feared when Italy collapsed, is now a reality. Within hours, the news reaches the Wolf's Lair. Wolfschanze, pre-dawn. Hitler stands over the operations table, eyes bloodshot, hair unkempt.
Anzio is marked with a fresh red circle, too close to Rome, too dangerous. The room hums with nervous energy. Phones ring, staff officers whisper, couriers come and go. Hitler does not shout. He listens. Then, slowly, deliberately, he speaks.
This, he says, tapping the map, is the price of betrayal. No one disagrees. The Anzio landing becomes a fixation. Hitler refuses withdrawal, refuses flexibility. He orders divisions rushed south, pulled from already thin fronts. The beachhead must be crushed, not just for strategic reasons, but symbolic ones. Italy must not be allowed to think it chose correctly. And somewhere in northern Italy, Mussolini hears of the landing and understands the unspoken message. Gargnano, Lake Garda, Mussolini's headquarters. The lake is still, deceptively peaceful. Snow dusts the mountains in the distance. Inside the villa, Mussolini sits at a desk cluttered with reports he barely reads. Anzio. Rome threatened. The Allies are advancing from the south. Germany is tightening its grip from the north. There is no room left to maneuver. When he speaks now, it is with resignation. "We are paying," he tells a subordinate quietly, "for everything." He knows Hitler is watching, measuring, judging. And Hitler remembers every word spoken in that bunker months earlier. Wolfschanz, spring 1944. Hitler's conversations about Italy grow darker. To his inner circle, he recounts the moment he learned of the betrayal, not with anger now, but with a cold, almost academic clarity. They smiled, he says of the Italians. They celebrated. They believed the war had ended for them. He shakes his head. They did not understand who they had offended. Someone asked what Mussolini had said when confronted. Hitler's lips thin. He said they betrayed him, Hitler replies, as if betrayal is something that happens accidentally. A short, humorless laugh. That is when I knew Italy was finished. June 4th, 1944, Rome. German forces withdraw north under pressure. The city falls to the Allies without a fight. Crowds filled the streets again, this time welcoming American troops. The symbolism is devastating. Rome lost.
For Hitler, it is confirmation. Italy was never strong enough, never ruthless enough, never worthy. In the Wolf's Lair, he reacts not with grief, but with resolve. "Let them have Rome," he says. "We will hold the north, and we will make it hurt." Orders go out. Reprisals intensify. Partisan executions become routine. Entire villages are punished for resistance. The Italian Social Republic becomes synonymous not with revival, but with terror. And Mussolini, once the architect of fascism, has become its prisoner. April 1945, Berlin. The city is collapsing. Soviet artillery pounds the streets day and night. Smoke chokes the air. The Führer bunker shakes with every impact. Hitler sits at a small table, bent over maps that no longer matter. News arrives from Italy. Mussolini is on the run, captured by partisans near Lake Como, executed. His body hung in a Milan square, displayed to a cheering crowd. The room waits for Hitler's reaction. He says nothing for a long time. Then, finally, he speaks. "So," he murmurs, "it ends as it began." Someone asks what he means. "Betrayal," Hitler replies. There is no anger left in his voice, only inevitability. Hours later, Hitler dictates his final political testament. He speaks of loyalty, of treachery, of those who failed him. Italy is not named. It does not need to be. The lesson is already written in blood across Europe. When Hitler first learned of Italy's betrayal, he did not scream, he did not collapse, he absorbed it. And from that moment on, every decision he made carried the imprint of that realization, that allies could not be trusted, that weakness was fatal, and that fear was the only glue left holding his world together. As the bunker closes in around him, as the Reich crumbles into ash, that belief remains unshaken. The war did not end for Hitler with defeat, it ended with betrayal. And in his mind, it always had.